The pardon me. Pardon me. My apologies.
Likely one of those international cities might. Stop! You scared the shit out of me.
We're working here, man.
Thank you. Coming up, more problems for a troubled
Earthquake.
singer. Yep,
We're
we got
having an earthquake.
When millions were watching, one anchor's composure shattered, and what followed stunned everyone on set. It wasn't a slip, a laugh, or a blooper. It was something far more haunting, the kind of live moment that no one could ever take back. This shocking broadcast opens a lineup of 16 unforgettable on-air moments where reality proved stranger than rehearsal. What could drive a trusted face of the news to cross that line in front of the world? The answer begins here. Jordanian controversy. Live debates can be intense, but few have spiraled out of control as spectacularly as the now infamous Jordanian controversy. During a televised discussion on a Jordanian talk show, two guests were invited to debate the ongoing Syrian conflict, a topic already charged with emotion and political tension. What began as a verbal sparring match quickly turned volatile. As one guest accused the other of supporting the Syrian revolution, tempers flared. The accused retaliated by claiming his opponent backed Bashar al-Assad's regime. Within seconds, the discussion devolved into a heated shouting match, with both men hurling insults instead of arguments. The host tried to restore order, but the guests were determined to continue their feud. One of the participants shocked everyone by pushing the studio table over to the other side and thus dividing it. What happened next was pure chaos. The two men seized the broken pieces of the table and started to hit each other with them as if they were weapons, all this on live TV. The camera operators and the crew rushed in to try and stop the fight, but the astonished home audience could only watch the political debate turn into a fistfight in real time. The viral clip that resulted was reported by all the major news outlets worldwide, and it gained both critics and fans for its hilarious and unprofessional nature at the same time. This became a warning story for the producers of news shows worldwide about how to handle live debates and how to enforce decorum. Along with that, it also showed the extent to which political feelings can suppress rational discourse. The embarrassment did not matter. The clip got enormous exposure online, the whole thing standing for how easily and quickly civility can be lost in a hot situation. In the unpredictable world of live TV, this chaotic incident was a reminder that strong opinions, uncontrolled emotions, and a broken table could turn any broadcast into breaking news. Keep your seatbelt fastened, because the next on-air surprise doesn't come from shouting, it comes from silence. Sleeping on air. Even the most seasoned broadcasters can fall victim to the fatigue that comes with long hours and relentless schedules. And no one learned this lesson more publicly than Tucker Carlson during his early career in live television. In a now famous incident dubbed "Sleeping on Air," Carlson accidentally dozed off during a commercial break, only for the cameras to resume rolling before he could wake up. When the program returned to live broadcast, viewers were treated to the unforgettable sight of the host slumped back in his chair, eyes closed, completely unaware that millions of people were watching him nap on national television. For a handful of surreal seconds, the control room was in a dilemma, whether to cut the feed or to wait for him to wake up. At last, one of his co-hosts, attempting to refresh his interest, succeeded, and Carlson fell asleep in between the segments, blinking in bewilderment and then recognizing what had occurred. The short but comic incident went viral through networks and social media, with a variety of clips showing it as the unpredictable human side of live TV. Viewers laughed, sympathized, and even admired his self-mockery after that. Although embarrassing, Sleeping on Air was still a hit because it dealt with a theme that everybody could relate to. Exhaustion TV anchors have to cope with really hard and unmanageable schedules. They have to work long hours, doing the news all night, and getting little sleep in between. After that period, Carlson's open response, in which he made a joke of power naps on prime time, turned the blunder into a moment of meekness and laughter. Overall, his unintentional on-air nap ended up as a sign that even the best of journalists have their weak moments, and that, at times, the body just chooses to sleep, even if there are live cameras around, uninvited and on camera. Live television has always carried an element of unpredictability, where even the most experienced reporters must stay alert to the unexpected. In this particular case, a TV reporter in Los Angeles was covering the city's bid to host the 2016 Olympics when an unwelcome surprise interrupted her broadcast. Focused on delivering her report, she didn't notice a man creeping up behind her until she suddenly felt his breath on the back of her neck. Startled, she screamed and jumped away in visible terror as the camera continued rolling. The incident was both shocking and unsettling for the audience, quickly turning a routine coverage into a viral clip that spread across the internet. With remarkable calmness, the reporter not only managed to get rid of the incident, but also recovered quickly from the shock. Despite this, the event pointed out a problem of great concern for female reporters working in public places. The life of a journalist often involves unpredictable situations, and this one reaffirmed the need for clear-cut professional boundaries and safety measures during live telecasts. The reporter was, to a great extent, supported by many viewers who rightly pointed to her as a professional under difficult circumstances. The surprise twist was not the only thing that made it remarkable, but also the heat of the discussion it generated on the topics of respect and workplace safety. Publicly speaking, the man's rude attitude was rejected by most people as inappropriate, and it was a reminder that even public personalities still have rights to personal space. For the reporters, the whole episode was a lesson to keep being aware of their surroundings while equally showing composure under pressure. Ultimately, it manifested the thin line between professionalism and vulnerability that is commonly associated with live reporting. The splash heard around the studio. Broadcast journalism often involves stepping into unpredictable environments, but few moments capture that reality, quite like what happened to a Dutch reporter covering an interview by the water. During a segment about local governance, the reporter was speaking with the mayor near a lagoon or canal, a common backdrop in the Netherlands, a country famously intertwined with waterways. Everything seemed calm and professional until, in a split second, she lost her footing and tumbled straight into the water. The live cameras caught every second of the splash, transforming a serious interview into an unintentional comedy that immediately went viral across social media. The incident very soon turned out to be an instance of how even the most experienced professionals can be easily affected by their environment. The mayor and a sound engineer were the first two to get to him. And yes, the soaked reporter did laugh her way out, albeit being quite embarrassed. And, good luck, the plight she was in was not too serious. She only had an injured ego and a wet costume. The incident was mainly remembered not because of the fall, but because of the good-natured reaction of the person involved. She smiled and regained her composure and even got to the end of her report. The kind of toughness she showed won her the audience's hearts, as it was a demonstration that being real and having a sense of humor can make an embarrassing incident turn into a communication moment that is easy to identify with. This is both amusing and informative in that it warns about the importance of assessing your surroundings in live reporting situations. Reporters put up with quite a lot when it comes to weather and water, and this incident made them realize the need for caution and preparation even more. Nevertheless, the reporter was professional, even in the face of the mishap. And hence one could say that sometimes it matters more to be graceful after a fall than to never fall at all. Earthquake in real time. Live television thrives on immediacy, but when nature intervenes, even the most composed anchors can find themselves shaken, literally. During a morning broadcast in Los Angeles, a team of news anchors was delivering routine updates when the ground beneath them began to tremble violently. At first, viewers noticed the studio lights flickering and the cameras quivering before the anchors themselves reacted. Within seconds, instinct took over. They ducked under the desk, seeking cover while continuing to communicate what was happening to their audience. The footage captured their startled expressions and the audible rumble of the quake, creating a raw, unfiltered moment of television that spread quickly across the internet. Viewers wondered if it was funny or not to see the anchors running around during the broadcast. However, they all agreed that the reaction showed the human side of the news anchors. The decision of the anchors to put safety first is a classic case of safety first being a standard rule for every journalist. Besides, their rough and natural actions were a reminder to the viewers that the fear and surprise caused by disasters are feelings that, no matter how well trained one is, one still experiences them. Consequently, the broadcast was not picked up and spread as a viral sensation due to the mocker, but rather because it was an authentic representation of the vulnerability that all human beings have to go through when nature decides to change things up unpredictably. The quake being over, the anchors took a breath, gave situation updates, and told the audience they were fine. Later, the experts praised their reactions and calmness, saying that, in a way, their actions had very clearly shown the right thing to do in an earthquake. This turned out to be an unforgettable lesson in crisis communication and character endurance, demonstrating that the meaning of professionalism is not always to look perfect and still, but rather to be smart and calm in your response when the earth shakes around you. When professionalism meets a downpour, reporting the weather is often seen as a routine job, but sometimes it means facing the very elements you're describing. That was the case for a Milwaukee weather correspondent who found herself quite literally stuck in the storm. Assigned to cover a severe weather system sweeping through the city, she was sent into the pouring rain and howling wind to deliver live updates. For hours, she stood outside, soaked, cold, and visibly frustrated, trying to describe conditions that were painfully obvious to anyone watching. Finally, after enduring one too many gusts and puddles, she lost her patience. On live television, the exhausted reporter unleashed a candid outburst, declaring she had been standing there for hours, that the weather was awful, and that she had run out of things to say. Her unexpected sincerity was a huge contrast to the usual on-air polished tone. Viewers could directly relate to her hardships and were laughing along with her as her raw emotions were getting through. Rather than scolding her, her superiors took her outburst as something to be rather edifying and inspiring. They showed the public the more human side of news reporting. Behind the cameras and parasols are actual people who suffer discomfort for the story. The footage went viral in no time, and it was hailed as one of the most down-to-earth weather broadcasts ever. This serves as a reminder that live television can still be great, even when it is not perfectly composed. At times, genuineness can touch the audience more than professionalism. The reporter's frankness not only represented the storm's intensity, but also the stubbornness of the journalists who risk the hardships to keep the public updated, no matter the weather. Uninvited guests captured live. One of the most memorable moments in modern broadcast history occurred not in a studio, But in a home office during a serious political interview, Professor Robert Kelly was giving a live BBC interview about the impeachment of South Korean President Park Geun-hye when the unexpected happened. As he spoke earnestly about complex political issues, the door behind him burst open and his young daughter strutted confidently into the room, followed closely by her baby sibling in a walker. Completely unaware that their father was live on international television, the children turned the serious segment into an instant viral comedy. Kelly's initial reaction was a combination of astonishment and panic under control, as he attempted to show the professional side of himself while the family's adorable mess was going on behind him. Shortly after, his wife, who had come to know the situation, took center stage in a very dramatic way to get rid of the kids, crawling on the floor in a very desperate way to keep her visibility on camera to a minimum. The whole event took less than a minute, but it was able to win the hearts of people around the globe. It was shared millions of times on different social media sites, and viewers praised the situation for its authenticity and humor. Uninvited Guests Captured Live was not only a viral blooper, it was also a representation of the lost distinction between home and work that came as a result of remote broadcasting. Kelly later confessed he was at first very ashamed, fearing indeed the negative impact on his professional image. But the public's fantastic response transformed the moment into a precious family legacy. This incident, which took place in a world where polished presentation is the norm, reminded everyone that there is always a human story behind a professional broadcast waiting to unfold, even if it is sometimes very literally, through the door, the forecast that caught fire. Sometimes, live television throws a curveball that even the most prepared reporters can't see coming, especially when technology decides to misbehave. During a routine weather broadcast, meteorologist Corey McCloskey experienced one of the most hilarious technical glitches in local news history. As he presented the forecast, the digital weather map began displaying absurdly high temperatures across several Arizona cities. Some locations showed readings of over 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit, while others reported scorching highs reaching nearly 3,000 degrees. Instead of panicking or cutting to a break, McCloskey handled the situation with wit and composure, transforming a technical disaster into a comedic masterpiece that instantly went viral. Instead of turning a blind eye to the mistake, McCloskey fully embraced the ridiculousness of the situation. He delivered his lines with perfect comedic timing and told the audience to get out while you can, adding that the extreme heat would make Arizona a perfect place for unplanned barbecues. His funny improvisation not only saved the broadcast from disaster, but also made it a brilliant live performance. The spectators applauded not the forecast's precision, but the weatherman's skill in making a mess. Entertaining, the video went viral immediately, giving him credit for his professionalism under pressure. This is a lesson about dishonest live television and the lives of humor during mistakes. Technical mistakes are always there, but the outcomes are determined by the reactions. McCloskey's coolness and charm turned an air slip-up into a career highlight, thus showing that flexibility and humor are as much needed for reporters as being right or being prepared, especially when the prediction says it's 2,960 degrees in the shade. Hold that laughter, because the next on-air moment takes Hot Mic to a whole new level. A grammatical matter. In the high-pressure world of live broadcasting, every word matters. And sometimes, one innocent slip can create unforgettable television. During a routine handover between a male news anchor and the station's meteorologist, a simple misunderstanding turned into a viral blooper known as a grammatical matter. As the anchor prepared to introduce the weather segment, He attempted a friendly transition by saying, "Maybe we could just canoodle before you get right into it." The meteorologist froze, visibly shocked, and quickly replied that she would definitely not be canoodling with him. The awkwardness that followed was palpable, leaving both the anchor and the audience in disbelief. The incident was triggered by a very basic vocabulary confusion. The presenter later admitted that he thought canoodle was a synonym for having a light conversation or discussing something casually, not realizing that the word actually means to engage in loving, cuddling, or playing with each other. When the meaning finally hit him, the pity was all over his face. He attempted to correct his error on air, but at that point, the funny damage had already been done. The viewers' response was massive on social media, where they shared clips and gave comments, and the general feeling was that the situation was both very embarrassing and extremely funny. It was indeed a classic case of how, through the use of language in careless or innocent ways, a professional environment could be turned into a funny situation of mistakes. The incident was beyond just a good laugh, as a grammatical matter turned into a subtle reminder of the critical nature of word choice in news reporting. Comprehending the nuances of language, as well as the ability to think quickly, are the essential skills that apply to these broadcasters, whose voices are heard by millions. Nevertheless, the anchor's mistake by chance made him more relatable to the viewers. His red face, humble attitude, and the sincere apology he gave later were the signs that even the top-notch speakers sometimes make mistakes, and that a combination of humility and humor can do wonders in overcoming a disaster caused by language on live television. Attacked by birds. Live reporting often demands that journalists immerse themselves in the story, sometimes a bit too literally. In the now famous "Attacked by Birds" incident, a field reporter learned this the hard way while covering an infestation of aggressive birds. Hoping to give viewers an authentic, up-close look at the situation, he walked directly beneath a tree, densely populated with the feathery culprits. Within seconds, the broadcast took an unexpected and hilarious turn. As the reporter began explaining the problem, a bird swooped overhead and left an unmistakable gift right on his shoulder. Trying to laugh it off and maintain composure, he continued talking, but fate and gravity had other plans. When he glanced upward to locate the birds, another one struck again, this time landing squarely on his face. The incident quickly spiraled out of control. The reporter, shocked and repulsed, yelled and retreated from the tree, but the camera still filmed it all. The audience was able to hear his cries of annoyance as he attempted to escape the birds that were attacking from above. It was likely the crew's presence that disturbed the birds, which made them even more aggressive. The studio colleagues, who were watching the live broadcast, sharing their laughter and slightly professional-mannered, were almost unable to contain it as the unforgettable footage was shown live. Nonetheless, the reporter was a victim of luck. His ordeal became an instant viral sensation. The whole world was rooting for the man, both for his bravery and his great sense of humor. The birds attack incident turned out to be a metaphor for field reporting's unpredictable character, in which nothing is impossible at any time. It was a humorous, but at the same time, a lowering your ego reminder that in the conflict between people and wildlife, the latter sometimes turns victorious and the former may laugh. Talking to the air. In the fast-paced environment of live news broadcasting, timing and coordination are everything. Talking to the air captures one of those awkward, unforgettable moments when technology, or timing, completely betrays a journalist. The incident dates back to the Ronald Reagan era, when a television anchor was assigned to deliver live coverage of the newly elected president's event. The bustling crowd and cheering supporters created a thunderous background, drowning out nearly every other sound. As the anchor began his live report, he found himself unable to hear feedback from the studio. Believing he was still off-air, he began shouting into his microphone, asking, "Can you hear me? Are we live yet?" Ironically, he was already broadcasting live to millions of viewers. The outcome was a segment that was unintentionally funny, but portrayed the difficulties faced in news gathering during the pre-modern communication era. At home, the viewers had a good laugh watching the anchor go on with his one-sided dialogue while being totally oblivious to the fact that his private troubleshooting was actually public. The producers in the control room were trying to cut off the transmission, but the delay just contributed to the chaos. When the speaker finally realized that he had been on air all the time, the look on his face was nothing less than a mixture of shock, shyness, and good humor. The Talking to the Air event stood as a classic reminder that live television is a strictly no-error situation, while the public will still be the first to appreciate these unscripted hiccups. The hiccups make the people behind the slick presentations more relatable, letting the viewers in that even the most experienced ones can make mistakes when the pressure gets high. The clumsy ballerina. Few live reports combine humor, irony, and misfortune, quite like the story known as the clumsy ballerina. In the icy city of Novosibirsk, a dedicated reporter set out to expose the poor condition of local roads, a topic that affected thousands of residents. Standing before potholes, puddles, and uneven asphalt, she decided to make her segment more dynamic by physically demonstrating the challenge. Spotting a large puddle, she attempted to leap gracefully over it, perhaps imagining herself as a ballerina in mid-flight. Unfortunately, her timing and footing betrayed her. Instead of landing on dry ground, she slipped and landed squarely in the freezing water, sending a splash that drenched her from head to toe. The moment of her amazing fall was caught by the camera every second of the way. The audience could see and feel the pain of the situation, yet the reporter's response got the upper hand, and even won over the viewers in all parts of the world. She laughed away her humiliation, was up on her feet in no time, and was still reporting the news amidst the cold and discomfort. The video went viral through social media channels very fast and was even dubbed as one of the most human-like and cheerful blunders in journalism. People in the area were even smiling and saying that her slip had more of a positive impact on the matter of the city's bad road conditions than any formal complaint ever had when the forecast turned fashionable. In the realm of television news, meteorologists are often celebrated for their expertise and clear communication. But sometimes, public attention drifts toward something entirely different. Such was the case for Puerto Rican weather presenter Jackie Guerido, whose popularity skyrocketed beyond her forecasts. Known for her confident delivery and radiant on-screen presence, Jackie became a household name not only because of her meteorological skill, but also because of her striking appearance and fashion sense. Her choice of stylish, form-fitting outfits often drew as much discussion as the weather itself, sparking debates about professionalism, gender expectations, and the fine line between confidence and controversy in broadcast media. She was charged by the critics with being a provocateur, with her outfit being tagged as something that takes away the focus from the news. Her fast-growing fandom defended her unconditionally and even celebrated her for being so unique and for being able to express her personality in that way, at the same time, furthering her career. The audience took her further and beyond just a weather girl, but rather a pioneer who skillfully mixed the features of the intellect, charm, and modern-day fashion in a very conservative part of the industry. Eventually, The image of Garrido became a reflection of the changing status of women in the media, challenges to the norms of professionalism with the queens of personal lives and self-expression. The announcement that shook the newsroom. In live political news, accuracy matters more than speed. But in 2000, one major network learned that the hard way. During the tight U.S. presidential election, CNN rushed to announce Al Gore as the new president. Anchors spoke with confidence, analysts discussed his plans, and celebrations began across the country. But the excitement didn't last long. A recount in Florida revealed the race was far from over, and the real winner was George W. Bush. The mistake became one of the most talked-about blunders in media history. Viewers criticized the network for choosing speed over truth, and other outlets that followed faced the same backlash. The false report was replayed endlessly, serving as a harsh reminder of how quickly credibility can vanish. This became a lasting lesson for journalists everywhere. Never let competition replace verification. In a world where breaking news spreads instantly, this moment reminded everyone that getting it right is far more important than getting it first love at first read. Television anchors depend on teleprompters to deliver news flawlessly. But one Alabama anchor learned that live TV can hold unexpected twists. During what seemed like a normal broadcast, she began reading breaking news that quickly turned personal. Mid-sentence, she realized the story was about her. A surprise proposal written into the teleprompter by her boyfriend, with help from the station crew. The confusion she felt turned into joyous laughter and tears. As he came onto the set to propose to her in person, the emotional moment was celebrated with clapping from the crew, and the audience expressed their happiness with an outpouring of joy. This is still one of the most beautiful moments in live television, a clear proof that even in an artificial world of scripts and cues, the most memorable stories are the ones that unfold unexpectedly. You've seen emotion on air, but you haven't seen this kind of dedication. Get ready for a splash. The reporter who sank for the story. Even the best reporters can find themselves stuck, literally. During a live segment on receding lake water levels, one eager journalist decided to show viewers just how dry the area had become. Confidently, he jumped into what looked like solid ground, only to plunge straight into deep, sticky mud. Cameras kept rolling as he struggled to escape, losing both shoes and most of his dignity, while his crew and audience erupted in laughter. Embarrassed yet poised, the journalist laughed to scorn the incident, saying it was his hands-on reporting style. The video clip became famous in no time, and the viewers were happy with the combination of funny and real. Rather than the mistake being a mark against him, he used it to give a talk on the virtues of endurance and professionalism. This was loved by the public, a cheerful herald that live television does not always go according to the script. The most unforgettable experiences that are not written down come in the instances when reporters get too involved, keep their cool under pressure, and show that even in chaotic situations, the story cannot be silenced. And that's just one of the unforgettable moments caught live on air. Which story shocked you the most? Let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and tap the bell icon so you never miss our next deep dive into the wild world of live television. Thanks for watching, and stick around to check out the next video popping up on your screen. You won't believe what happens there.